Hello and welcome to another update video about BNB. BNB formed a 5-wave pattern to the upside. We talked about it at the time. After the target was reached for the 5th wave to the upside, we have seen a strong decline. That was a strong decline that was already expected. I think there was a catalyst or something, but at the same time, it was already sort of, let's say the chart was primed for it. When you then have a chart pattern that meets basically a fundamental catalyst, something, then it's often the case that it actually is followed through quite quickly. That's what we had in this case. I became a bit concerned because the A wave moved down so deep into the support area. Yeah, so normally what we want to avoid that in any wave 2 correction, which is what we're looking for after a 5-wave move to the upside, we want to avoid that the wave 2 breaks below the 78.6 retracement. Now, in Elliott Wave terms, or based on Elliott Wave rules, that's not a rule break if we break below that level, okay? So it would still be a technical setup for higher prices in a 3rd wave. But we will, and that's experience and guidelines, if the wave 2 breaks below that level, it indicates too much weakness. The sentiment is then too bearish for a very likely continuation in a 3rd wave higher, which is why this setup is really only, let's say, likely until the $216 level breaks. It is technically valid until the $202 level breaks. So there's a difference between what is likely and what's possible. But we now have a fairly healthy B wave. That B wave gives the C wave some space. So when that C wave starts, what we want to avoid is a break below the $216 level at the very least. Yeah, I mean, ideally it's not breaking below 216. What it has to avoid to keep a valid upside setup is a break below 202, but ideally we don't even get there. Now we see a fairly healthy B wave. We're now in standard resistance. Standard resistance is between 253 and $262.50. So at the moment, I'm watching this area for a potential reaction to the downside. At the moment, I haven't seen one. I'm not seeing, so there is not yet a clear, any clear evidence that we are breaking down from here. So it might very well go a little higher. Because we're dealing with a B wave, we always have to consider that a high B wave could form. Above the green line, which is at $274, we might see a direct breakout. And a C wave to the downside will become far less likely. Not impossible, because B waves can overshoot. In fact, it would actually be quite healthy for this B wave to overshoot, because the C wave otherwise will run out of space. Yeah, the C wave oftentimes has the same length as the A wave. Now, because this A wave was very fast, it is difficult to recognize the subwave structures in this A wave. But I would consider and count it as a, let's double check that actually, 15. Actually more like a 5-wave move. Let's double check that. Yeah, I think it's a pretty clear 5-wave pattern, and therefore, well, it depends on if you, and there's some distortions up there, so you can probably get away with counting it as an ABC, and in that case, obviously we need to be extra mindful that such a high B wave could occur, because if the A wave is a 3-wave move, a high B wave is very common. And in crypto anyway, it's common, and the A wave doesn't really show a very, very clear 5-wave move. It could be a 3-wave move, to be honest, but we don't want to overanalyze it. Technically, high B waves are in crypto are very common, so just sort of consider them, expect them, can't predict them really. They show when they want to show. All we can do is highlight the potential for a high B wave, which would actually be quite good for the bulls here, because let's assume someone entered in our support area for a long position. If it moves quite high, even some profit taking could be done, and then if the price dips once more into the support area, accumulation could occur again. But yeah, not much more to add. I think the parameters are very, very clear. If a 3rd wave happens from here, okay, I can only really use the data I have. So let's just assume a low is already in for target calculation purposes. Then the minimum, absolute bare minimum in the wave 3 would be $324. but much better would be 339 plus. Yeah, that's my update about BNB. I hope you liked the update. If you did, please hit the like button, leave a comment and subscribe. And if you really like the content, then please check out the channel membership. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye-bye.